to live and work on a planetary surface other than Earth. Last and absolutely critical is science. We would like to conduct science on the moon and in human and robotic methods to address high priority questions about the moon and demonstrate methods for future science by astronauts beyond the Earth-Moon system. My rockstar colleague and Director of Exploration Systems Directorate, Jim Free, can elaborate on how we plan to execute on this architecture. Suffice it to say that through our human exploration efforts, we seek to imagine and create first ever missions and approaches that showcase American ingenuity, pioneer new science and technology, improve long-term affordability, reinforce US preeminence, improve life on Earth, and address critical national challenges. Let me end my remarks by saying that what we are starting with the Launch Monday is not a near-term sprint, but a long-term marathon to bring the solar system and beyond into our sphere. I feel privileged to be part of this invigorating vision, and let me hand off to Jim now.
Thanks, Pavia. Good afternoon, everybody. It is really a great honor to be here with all of you and with the folks on this panel, especially my mission directorate, colleagues and friends, I think I can say that, and to be part of the exploration systems development, what we're trying to do globally, and frankly, to be part of the Artemis 1 team is a great honor for me. If I could have the first slide, please. We do have a beautiful vehicle out at the pad today, although at one point you couldn't even see it. It was raining so hard. We have a launch team and an ops team and a recovery team that are rested as those folks can be with the hard work they've had and the excitement they have ahead. We did have our L-2 mission management team. You heard about that today. And the vehicle is so attractive, it got a nice lightning strike to our Lightning Tower number 2 today. I know some of you have heard about that. I looked at my phone as close to 2:30 as I could. I told them I was coming on here. It looks like it was a low magnitude strike. Started talking about Mars. But as you've heard over the course of the briefings this week, this is a very risky mission. We have, I'll say, simple but aggressive objectives. That is to get the vehicle into orbit, in orbit, and back home, and understand how the systems operate. We need to understand how the heat shield performs on its reentry, and we need to recover the vehicle. All of those things are our objectives. I'll say those 3 objectives. We do have a lot of things that could go wrong during the mission, and places where we may come home early, where we may have to abort to come home. That's how we test the system too. With that objective of getting the vehicle back, that is incredibly important as well. So we will be balancing risk, and I say we, look, it's the teams that are launching this thing and operating it and plucking it out of the ocean. Those are the folks balancing the risk. And we put systems in place to understand the risk and know the risk we're taking. But that risk is there because there's great reward on the other side. Going to the moon, studying the environment of the moon, what you can learn by staying there longer, and developing those capabilities we need on the lunar surface and in orbit around the moon, it's very much worth that. It's even more worth it when you consider what Artemis does here on Earth. We talk a lot about what's going to happen in the next 42 days, but the tech development, the investment in state-of-the-art facilities, advanced manufacturing, diverse businesses that can provide components to us, supply chain issues, I think you've heard about that along the way. Growing the aerospace field, which frankly I'm completely biased since that's the field I'm in. That new generation of workers that are going to be inspired by seeing that rocket fly and that capsule fly and come home, I think will generate as much as the Apollo generation did. That long-term presence, economic benefit, and really that thirst for science is what makes Artemis different. And we have put science in from the very beginning. I actually got interviewed for Science in Seconds today. I was very honored. I said probably I could speak seconds about science, but the science is what we're doing from the beginning. Dr. Zabukin will talk about some of the science on this mission. and how we're really planning to get that central to our architecture in the future. The next slide, please. You know, as we develop our architecture, sorry, I have to see the slide. As we develop our architecture, as I said, science in mind, right? We're starting with our rocket, our spacecraft, and our ground systems that get us there. Next slide, please. Gateway, our gateway in orbit around the moon has science being built for it today by the Science Mission Directorate and our international partners. It's our transfer point, our staging area. The landing system that's going to put boots on the surface for us in development today. The rover that will take the astronauts out to the science sites, both pressurized and unpressurized rovers. The suits that they use to navigate through the surface and pick up the samples to bring home. We'll design each of those elements with science in mind. As more science equals more learning about the moon, how it formed, how we can stay long term, and how we move on to Mars. And as we learn about the moon and build out our lunar presence, looking at our systems going to Mars, we'll develop capabilities at the moon that will enable those things to happen. We need the transportation, the habitation, the things that Pavia talked about that we're putting central to our objectives. We're going to be sustainable this time. That doesn't mean we're staying 365 days a year. It means we're going to be able to stay for 30 days and help enable others to stay there while we're not there. But the important part of this is we're going for all humanity, and we're going with all humanity. The more nations and companies at the moon, the more we learn, exponentially increasing our knowledge base and capabilities while strengthening things right here on Earth. Our campaign, our Artemis campaign, is encompassing, and we're excited to kick it off with the launch of Artemis 1, and thankful for you all to be here and online today. So with that, let me hand it over to my closest colleague up here, my one that I'm completely close to here, Kathy Leaders.
Thank you, Jim. It's really amazing to be, part of this Artemis team. I'd say everybody here on the dais here is part of our Artemis team, and here representing the broader team that's out there really getting all this work done. And I'm going to jump to my first slide. What's important is this team's been getting ready for a while. You have to really prepare and learn to be able to get ready for the mission that's going to be going off this Monday. And we're preparing for the missions coming up. And so here's a great picture of Kate Rubens. Kate Rubens is at the ESA's Pangea training course in the volcanic area, the Spain's Canary Islands. It's another example of the teamwork that the administrator talked about. Here we're working with the ESA folks on how do we get ready? How do we go figure out how we're going to go establish the procedures and processes to be able to go do the science that Jim talked about. Next slide, please. Here's another one of my favorite pictures because it shows not only do we have to figure out how to work on a surface, which is what Kate and the team were doing, but we also have to figure out how to live and work in space, because as we're going and living around the moon and on the moon, we have to figure out how to work in these different gravitational fields and be able to have processes to be able to take care of the humans that will be doing those missions. And so the International Space Station, like the administrator said before, is a place where international teams work together, just like we will need to have international teams working together and operating together in the future. If you see there in the pictures, there's one of my favorite things as an ex-New Mexico person, a hatch chili, and you got to figure out how to have food in space to be able to live and work for length of time in space. In addition, in the last picture you saw, Scott giving himself his own flu shot. And so that's another thing we're going to have to figure out how to deal and be able to take care of our crew members and